In adventure tourism, cage diving with great white sharks is an increasingly popular way of chasing an adrenaline rush. But new research has found that the fish mix used to lure the sharks is changing the way they behave and where they roam. Now, to protect the species, authorities want to cut back on the tours, as Rebecca BRICE reports.
They are an absolutely fascinating creature.
They're like the lions and tigers of the sea.
They're great white sharks, giant fish whose fearsome power has long fascinated people. So much so that around the world there's growing demand for close encounters. In Australia, cage diving with great whites happens in only one place, the Neptune Islands near Port Lincoln, where the sharks feast on seals. Of the 4 licensed cage diving operators, only 2 are allowed to lure the sharks with a burley of crushed fish and fish oil.
The burling of sharks in any particular area seems to be very site-specific for influencing any behaviour of the sharks in that area.
Andrew Fox runs 3- and 4-night tours to the Neptune Islands. The family business was started by his father, Rodney Fox, after he was attacked by a great white in 1963.
They're an incredible creature that needs to be looked after.
In South Africa, where the industry's booming, some surfers say burleying has turned them into bait.
Since they've started doing the shark baiting, we've had a lot more attacks. I think we've had about 8 or 9 attacks in the last sort of 5 or 6 years.
Great white sharks evoke a massive emotional response, and in South Africa there's operations within view of surfers in some areas, and other areas they're right near big city public beaches. And interestingly, there has been very little, if any, shark attack activity in those areas.
Back here, those sharing the water say the Neptune Islands are far more remote.
Very restricted area and well away from populated areas. You can't really get to that area without having a very large boat and travelling quite a way. So.
When it comes to burleying, the Scuba Divers Federation is taking the middle ground.
A number of our members are totally against any sort of baiting of sharks, and others don't mind taking part in cage diving. No, in fact, I wouldn't mind doing it myself one day.
According to CSIRO research, the waters around the Neptune Islands are chummed with burley on 270 days a year, more than double the rate of a few years ago. When a 5th operator sought to enter the industry, South Australia's Environment Department decided it was time to take stock.
The results from the research we've done over the last year show that the movement patterns are quite significantly different to what they were 10 years ago. So that's cause for concern.
Sharks are now staying for longer periods. They reside at the Neptune Islands for longer periods. When they are there, they're spending more time in close to the coast of the Neptune Islands where the shark cage dive operations occur.
Using tracking tags, the CSIRO discovered the behavioural changes, which scientist Barry Bruce says could eventually harm the species, already listed as vulnerable.
If sharks are indeed at the Neptune Islands to feed on seals for a short period of time so they can spend the rest of their year doing other things, if we distract them from that behaviour, we may well set them up for something that's not very nutritionally beneficial to them for the rest of the year.
To protect the species, the department wants to reduce the number of dive operators from 4 to 2 and restrict tour days to 200 a year. Under that plan, the tour operators who helped fund and carry out the research would have to compete with each other for the licences.
We think it's a good idea to be a bit careful, take a precautionary approach with managing these sharks, because we want to invest in our future and we don't want to change the behaviour of the sharks at the Neptune Islands.
Unless we make some changes now and the behaviour changes we're seeing in the shark population continue, that's likely to have a much bigger impact on the tourism operations. So we think it's worth acting now to prevent that.
The CSIRO didn't study a possible relationship between burleying and shark attacks on people. But it did find the white pointers were in the habit of arriving at and leaving the Neptune Islands around the same times as the boats did.
We just hate that sort of behaviour to turn into, as soon as the boat stops, the sharks come around.
We've been inadvertently or deliberately attracting sharks to vessels and activities ever since people were arrived in Australia in the first fleet, whether it be throwing garbage overboards, commercial fishing operations, game fishing operations prior to protection, or normal fishing operations.
It does seem at this point they need to do a lot more research, I think. That's something we really strongly support.
Once there's a policy for the Neptune Islands, the department may open up other sites in the state to shark cage diving.
I think we can balance both things here. That's what this is all about, is making sure that we've got a sustainable tourism industry and at the same time protecting any possible impacts on this species.
Speaking with some of the members of the dive clubs, I don't think they would support increasing the number of sites or the number of operators at this point in time without a lot more research being done.
Rebecca BRICE reporting.